So, shalom everyone. As always, we'll try to begin with something that has to do with Shabbat before we start the Halachot. Rabbeinu Aharon Brashia, he was a big Mekubal in Italy, from the city of Modena. He has a sefer, Abar Yabok. In it, he says that on Friday night, a person should bless his children. Because first of all, you have Ruach Neshama Yetera. The child has a Neshama Yetera, so that works together, and it'll bring a lot of Kedusha, it's very, very beneficial. And he's right, that it's a segula to give a blessing to the children, right? And the berachot will take place when a person does it on Friday night. And the Satan will not be able to do anything with the berachot, because at that time on Shabbat, the Satan has no power. And it's a good thing to say Bikat Kohanim, you say Yavarachach Hashem Yishmerecha, and then you say Yisimcha Elohim Ki Ephraim Chim. And he writes something else interesting that I didn't know. He writes that he himself would say there is a pasuk. I think it's a pasuk about Mashiach, where it says Nacha Alav Ruach Chochma Uvina, right? Shall rest upon him the spirit of wisdom and understanding. Ruach Etza Ugvura, right? Spirit of Etza is advice, or good, I guess, advice. Ugvura, strength. Ruach Da'at, right? Spirit of understanding and a fear of Hashem. It's beautiful, but he means to say something else. He says this pasuk has the ability, the strength to awaken within the child certain spirits on the five senses. It's a beautiful thing. Anyways, so that's that. Also, Allah, it says, they say, before a person gives a bracha to someone, he should say, Baruch Adonai le'olam amen v'amen. First you bless Hashem, then you bless other people. This way, it's not a good thing, to first give a blessing to the person, first, give a blessing to Hashem. Okay, so that's that. We are up to the melacha of Soveya. Soveya means to dye, to paint, right? And in the Mishkan, as this was one of the 39 melachot, as one of the things that they would do is they would paint, they would dye the strings of wool in different colors. Techelet, argaman, turat shani, right? Red, the techelet, bluish color that they used to have, either for the clothing of the Kohanim, right? The garments that the Kohanim had to wear, or for the curtains and the coverings of the Mishkan, and so on and so forth. They needed all the types of colored strings and colored garments that they used to have. So in order to make that, obviously they would have to dye that. And how they would do it, they would get these herbs or whatever they used. If it was a techelet, it wasn't an herb, it was from a chilazon, which we're going to get to later, right? The way they would extract the dye from this sea species, and they would go ahead and usually with herbs they would cook the strings or the bundles of wool in a pot, and that's how they would get the paint into the strings, fabric. So now that's the melacha, the oraita of Soveya. Let's see what we could do. So first of all, it is asur to paint anything. Let's say clothing, walls, closets, chair, table, any of these articles. The person cannot paint, it's asur to paint them with a paint that will stay. Okay? So it has to be davar hamid kayem, a paint that will stay. A paint that's going to disappear, that's not asur from the Torah, it's only asur midrabanan. Okay? And the Chachamim, right, were the ones that made the gezerah on something that will not stay on whatever it is. Like, let's say there are certain inks that you write with, they disappear. After like an hour, it just disappears. It's as if there's nothing there. That's not asur from the Torah. That's asur midrabana, right? Midivrei sofrim. And also the same thing, shoes, right? A person cannot paint shoes, right? Even with a polish which is see-through, doesn't have any particular color, but the reason why they would do it, you want the shoe to be shiny. Like, there's, what are those shoes called?
Patent leather.
Patent leather.
What was it called?
Patent leather.
Patent leather?
Shiny leather.
That's a
Shiny
shiny,
leather,
that's
yeah.
called patent leather?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. Those things, you take shoe polish, you want to polish it, it's just going to ruin it. It's going to ruin the finish. What do? They have see-through. They have these the gloss that they put over it, and that'll keep it. These days, I don't think anyone does these sort of things. They just throw it out, buy new pair. But in the olden days, 10 years ago, that's what they would do. They would put this gloss over it, and even that is definitely asur to do. And even if you're not putting anything on the shoe, you just want to rub it hard that it should be nice and shiny, as we said before by melaben, that is asur. But if there's some dirt there, you just want to clean it off, like with a piece of cloth, that's fine. As long as you don't rub it very hard to make it shiny, that's fine. Okay, so as far as Soveya. Now, even though we say the melacha of Soveya is on the things that we mentioned above, on a person's body there is no melacha of Soveya, right, from the Torah. Right. However, Chachamim said that ladies, because they usually do put, let's say, mascara, or they paint their face, that is asur to do on Shabbat. Why? Because although we said on a skin it's not considered Soveya, but Chachamim say that because it's the derech, it's a way to do it, therefore it is asur to do it. So like the Gemara brings a few different examples. It was like kachol ba'inayim, and also srak is something that they would do. Srak, it was sort of like a brush that they would brush over the face to make it look red. They used to do a lot of crazy things. They would take plaster and they would leave it on the face, and then they would peel it off. It would be nice and red. Oh, this lady looks healthy. Like things like that. They used to do all these sort of things. It is asur to do that on Shabbat. Also, lipstick, even if it has no color, right? Because the same idea is it makes it glossy, and it's also some sort of a Soveya, some sort of a painting, that would be asur. Makeup or nail polish, even not colorful nail polish, has no color, even that is asur on Shabbat to do. And even if it's already there, even if let's say she has makeup already and it's getting weaker, but it's there, and they want to just go over it to make it stronger, that is certainly asur as well, because of this, that it looks like it's painting. That's the issue, right? Now, what about the powder? The powder would be allowed because that's not mitkayem, right? It doesn't stay, like it's like you stick something on the face, and after a short while it's gonna fall off. That's fine, even if it's colorful. But there is a condition that in this powder there is no oil, or there is no cream. If there is any cream or oil, then it's mitkayem, it does stay. Or on the face prior to that, they didn't have any cream or any oil. Because if you had, and then you put the powder, so what do we do? It's the same idea that it's gonna make it stay, and then it would be a problem.
What about the natural oil of the skin?
That's a good question. I was thinking of that, and I was looking. I didn't see anyone mention that, but it would make sense that it shouldn't be any different than the shemen that the poskim bring down. So maybe a person should wash their face before they do it. Wash it and dry before they do it, because otherwise we would be facing the same problem, right? Because the idea is, it's not really agreed upon by every posek that a person is allowed to use this, even just a powder on Shabbat. It's Not everyone agrees with this. Some poskim say no. Other poskim they have to come to so many different ways of no, that we should allow it and so on and so forth. But not everyone is in agreement that a person could do it, because after all said and done, it does create some sort of a seva, some sort of a paint color, and they wouldn't agree. But what he brings down, he says it's fine to use as long as it's only powder.
Rabbi,
Yes.
what's the issue if it's not lasting?
What is not the issue? Oh, you mean
What
what
is
would be
the
the issue?
issue?
Because after all said and done, it is some sort of a paint, although it doesn't last, but it should be asur mid'Rabbanan. Definitely not from the Torah, but rabbinically, with we said that something that's not lasting, it's still asur mid'Rabbanan. It's just not asur from the Torah. So here also there would be at least mid'Rabbanan would be asur, but no, I think if I remember correctly, Shemesh Shabbat Yechata also said it's fine. If I remember correctly, and others, they say it's okay. Now, if a person has nail polish, they cannot remove it on Shabbat either, right? To remove the nail polish as well is not allowed. Now, however, it says that a person is allowed to eat fruits that have a color, like let's say berries or beets or pomegranates. Like a person is allowed to eat it, even though it's going to look like they're putting on they have put on what's called lipstick, right? Because the kavanah is not for painting; it's for eating. They're eating it, right? So it's something. So first of all, the whole thing is midrabanan, because we said it's not asur midoraita, so it's midrabanan, and it's kelachar yad. It's not like I'm taking the beet and I'm like rubbing it against my lips, just eating. As by the way of eating, it gets painted, it gets dyed. So therefore, that's the heter, because first of all, it's the rabbanan. Second of all, it's kelachar yad. It's not a direct act, so therefore, it's not a problem. Also, it doesn't stay; it goes away, and also, it's not the way to do it. It's not. What? Who takes? You want to paint something? You take a piece of pomegranate and you rub it all over the wall. You don't do that. It's not the derech. It's not the derech of painting. So for all these reasons mentioned, it is mutar. So that's. I think we're done with makeup and different things. That should cover everything. Now, poskim bring that a person has to be careful on Shabbat when they're eating this sort of fruit that does give off color, like beets, pomegranates, the different types of berries, to be careful not to wipe their mouth or their hands with a handkerchief, with a tissue, because you're coloring it, you're dyeing it, right? That's Soveya. Here's a nice white tissue, and then when you wipe it, you're coloring it again. This is not going to be min Torah, because it's not the way. This is not the derech of painting. You usually want to dye something, you take the whole handkerchief and you dip it in the dye and you dye it. And this is not the way to do it. So this is, they bring this, the original person that said it was Rabbi Eliezer Memit. He was a student of Rabbi Tam almost 700 years ago. In the Sefer Yereim, he writes this. And everybody, pretty much everybody agrees with him. He writes also there that chas v'shalom, if someone gets a cut, right, on his finger, or he has a nosebleed, right, so he writes that it would be asur to put tissue or a piece of cloth or whatnot, to put it on the cut, because you're dyeing it, right? You're painting, you're dyeing the cloth, and that's asur, right? Obviously, we're not talking about a case that the guy is going to die from bleeding. It's just is bleeding, and so he says not to do that. What to do? Wash it off, and then go ahead. And then you could put it, because there is no blood there. There is nothing there, and then once it's washed off, you could get it cleaned up with the cloth. Others are cholek. Others argue, and they said no, it is mutar, it is completely allowed, because this is not called painting, it's not called dyeing, you're not doing any act of painting, it just wants to clean up, right? Both of these cases, they say they argue with the fruits and the other color things, and also with the bleeding, in case of the bleeding. And however, if a person could be machmir not to do it, it's easily done. Especially if you're near a sink, you run over to the sink. If you had that type of a fruit, or there's bleeding, nosebleed, or whatever it is, you run to the sink and you clean it up, and then afterwards you put a cloth or whatever it is on it. It's not an issue, right? The poskim bring Radbaz, Rabbi David ben Zibra. He was a big posek. He argues with the Yereim, with the Rabbi Eliezer. He argues. He says, we never saw people be careful with this. Somebody is bleeding, they go right away. They put a bandage on it. They put a band-aid on it, and you never saw people are careful. So he says it's not the derech Soveya. Besides, it's all spotting, like it's like on the cloth, like the guy has bleeding. It's not, the whole thing is not one thing. It's not. So he says, being that it's not the norm, it's not the way to do Soveya. Therefore, he says it's not a problem at all, especially if there is the gauze things, like that's made special for this purpose. There, he says there's no question about that a person could use. Obviously, he doesn't use that example because back in 600 years ago they didn't have that. But he means to say that's the way it is. Also, it's important to know that it's derech lichluch. This is not, oh yeah, you know what? Let me paint this red. Nobody's gonna sit and say, let me paint this red. It's derech lichluch. It's dirt, and you just get rid of it. You throw it out, right? It's mekalkel, you don't even have the intention to paint it, and therefore he says completely that it's fine, and others also agree with him. However, again, as we said, if a person could be machmir, a person could be careful, good, because the Sefer Yereim writes. So if a person could be careful, why not? But if it's something that's certainly bothersome, then we say that a person could use a cloth, tissue, or cotton balls, or whatever, any of these things to clean up and to stop the bleeding, for sure. Right? Again,
You could use a colored napkin.
Yeah.
some people bring that advice.
I thought it's worse to use a colored
Yeah, I
napkin,
was
like
gonna
red
say.
on wine, because it's like deepening the dye. I thought that's what Soveya said.
Ravada doesn't mention it.
No?
I didn't see him say anything about that. I think which Sefer, I don't remember now. I got all mixed up now. Someone brought that advice that to use a red napkin or something, then it's not coloring it. It's just red anyways. You're not doing anything. But at the end of the day, you have to understand this is Sefer Yereim is the one that brought it, and many argue with it. But because he said it, they say if a person could be machmir, why not? But it's not a must. You don't have to be machmir. If a person is stuck, we're certainly not talking about a case of excessive bleeding. You have to stop the bleeding. Although they say that it's that many times a person if he puts these sort of things, it absorbs more blood to come out. So the best thing to do is to put water and to wash it up with water and soap to stop the bleeding. Anyways, that would be better off to start with.
I thought pressure stops the bleeding.
Pressure, first you wash it off. First you wash it off, then right away you put pressure. But lots of experience in those areas.
They don't let you wash it off.
The kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. But whatever the case is, in those cases you're right. Then if you have to apply pressure, better to apply the pressure with the gauze or something. Definitely go to stop. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Glasses. What are those glasses called? That they get dark when you walk outside. Photo.
Transition.
What is it called? You never seen those?
Yeah, is it a
Yeah,
transition?
transition, yeah, right?
Transition?
Yeah, right.
I think there was a word.
Sounds
photo.
I'm doubting myself, but yeah.
No, yeah, I remember there's a photo. There's a word photo. The technical term for it. Whatever the case is. So you know what it is. It's the glass. The lens has this sensor that when it comes in contact with light, it gets dark, and then when you come to a place where there is light, slowly it just changes color back to its clarity. So you're allowed to wear them on Shabbat. It's not a problem. Oh, you're Soveya, you're painting it, you're painting the lens. You know, the melacha of Soveya in the Mishkan was you use dye to paint something. And here, what are you doing? There's nothing there. It contains a certain chemical, and it has a reaction to the light, and it doesn't even stay right away when you come inside. You know, after a few minutes, already it's back to its color. It's nothing. It's not a problem at all. Some wanted to say that it's asur and the person should not wear these glasses on Shabbat, but most poskim earlier when it came out, so they had this thing like, no, you can't wear this on Shabbat, but it's fine. You know, there's this. I just saw there's this cups. You know, the cup. If you put hot water in it, it turns red. If you put cold water, it turns blue. That's the same idea. The same exact idea. You could put in it different things. You know, kids have fun with it. You know, in Israel, there's a big thing. They have this thing that they put, excuse me for saying, in the restrooms, right? It's like a soapy thing, and then when you flush, and there's two types. One, you put it in the container of the water, and then when you flush, you know, it's like blue, it comes out, and, you know, you feel good, oh, it's getting cleaned and everything. Or there's this type of soap that they have also when you flush, you know, the water as it comes down, it brings with it this stuff. Maybe it does clean it, I don't know what it does, but, you know, it's certainly a feel-good thing. So there's a big question, can you use it on Shabbat, can you not use it on Shabbat? A lot of people just remove it before Shabbat because, you know, you're painting the water. And they say you shouldn't use it, you know, something you could use only the ones that are in the tanker because then you don't see the soap, but, you know, the other ones that you put in there, in the bowl itself, you shouldn't use. Nobody said it's fine. That a person could do it because your intention is not really to dye the water, and your intention is not really, you have zero intention for this. It's not mitkayem, and you're not even doing it by hand. You just, as you flush it, you let it go down. You let the dye go into the water. It's not a problem. But here in America, I haven't seen it though. So we have no problem. It's fine. Question becomes: is a person allowed to go and get a suntan on Shabbat? You know, someone likes to go outside and just sit there out there to get a tan, especially in California. It's easily done, especially these days, nice weather. So he says like this: a person is allowed to do it in the winter, because but not he said, Ravadi writes, not for a prolonged period of time. Right? It's only for his pleasure, like when he wants to do it. Because even though he gets a tan, we don't say, oh, you're Soveya, you are painting, and that's for sure not, because as we said, there's no Soveya by the skin. And second of all, it just happens automatic by the rays of the sun. Also, we don't say it's refuah, because a lot of healthy people do it. It's derech beri'im. A lot of healthy people, they like to enjoy to sit out in the sun, especially in the winter. You know, it gives them pleasure. That's fine. However, he writes that in the summer, sitting out there under the sun for a prolonged period of time is tsar. It's tsar, and a person should refrain from doing things that will cause tsar on Shabbat. So, like a person comes and asks, I remember in yeshiva we had on Shabbat, long days, long summer days. And some guys they liked to go on top of the dormitory and just lay there. Especially the California guys, they like to look Californian. So here we go. You can't do it. However, if it's in the summer, it's they sweat and they get it's a tsar. After all said and done, it's something that's suffering, and they should refrain from doing this on Shabbat. Good.
Rabbi,
Yes.
are you allowed to put clear nail polish on tights?
Clear nail polish on.
Tights, stockings. Like if there's a
Oh,
rub.
really? People do that?
Yeah,
Or
to
hairspray.
prevent it
Uh-huh.
from going more.
I didn't know. That would be Soveya, wouldn't it be?
Clear.
I would say more like a glue than a color.
It's like on the skin also.
question. What would be the problem?
I'm sure there's an issue, but it'd be pretty cool if we could.
I wonder what, I have to check into it. What could be the problem with it? It's a cloth. So there's a issue of dyeing a cloth, right? And here, being that it's clear, there's not dyeing anything. Question: would it make it shiny?
No, it becomes like matte.
It like dries up.
Yeah. There's got to be a problem with it. It sounds
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
I want to know what it is.
There's got to be a problem. All right, I got to check into it. I don't know. I have to ask. I haven't seen it in the Halachot of Soveya. There's not so much Halachot in Soveya. So in the Halachot of Soveya, I didn't see it. It's got to be, I got to ask. I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, but it sounds more like it would be more of a glue than coloring.
So, you mean it's as far as it's like to a fair, but it's not. It's glued already. It's like closed already. What are we closing? What are we fixing? It's not mending anything.
You're preventing
More.
it from running more.
That's
Right.
it. That's all. So that's a good question. Very good question. Let me let's check into it. Nice trick. Now the Soveya, the Isur of painting, does not apply to food, right? To food items, it doesn't apply. There's a lot of things written on this. Whether it could do it, can't do it. So, but la halacha, Mara in the Shulchan Aruch writes that the person is allowed to go ahead and put turmeric or saffron onto food or into a soup, right? Obviously, we're talking about the soup is not in Keli Rishon, right? That's also that's Mavashet. Talking about that they transfer the soup to Keli Sheni, and over there you want to put the turmeric or the saffron in it to give it a good color. That a person is allowed to do, right? Especially in a lot of Sephardim, they don't like to have clear chicken soup. You know, you put clear chicken. Like, what do you serve me? Water? Like, you know, they don't even want to taste it. So if you put a little bit of turmeric in it, oh yeah, it's great, it's awesome. You know, just they see that, you know, they're okay with it. So it's Shulchan Aruch writes that a person is allowed to do that. So that's painting. So on this, you know, I think and who is the one that says you're allowed to? Again, Rabbi Eliezer Mimitz, the Sefer Yerim, he writes that by Ochlin, it's not a problem. And a person in food, he could go ahead and do it. Let's say you want to dip your bread into, you know, they make, you know, it's borscht.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Wow. So, you know, it's like completely red, and, you know, you dip your bread in it. Oh, you are dyeing your bread. You know, it's not a problem at all. It is completely mutar for a person to dye his food.
And drinks too.
And drinks too. So just like we say on this, some want to make a different. You know, say that there is a difference. We're going to get to that. But as far as food is concerned, there's a lot of back and forth. Like, you know, they say, like, you know, it's a long dispute. Like, you know, and a lot of Ashkenazi poskim, they say no, you can't. You cannot dye the food, and even if those that say you could dye the food, you can't dye the drink, right? They say the food is separate, drink is separate. So what? But most Sephardi poskim, well, I shouldn't say most. A lot of Sephardi poskim, they say that a person is allowed to go ahead and dye the drink as well. I mean, it starts with simple things. You have water. You want to pour some concentrate in it to make orange juice. Like, you know, you take you open a orange juice concentrate, like, you know, the frozen. You want to put in there. You are dyeing the bread, the water, you know, or that sort of things. So they say that's fine. That's fine because we see, just like there is no Soveya, there is no Soveya b'machal. In food, there is also no Soveya in drinks. The question becomes: is one allowed to? On Friday night or on the night of Pesach, they want to drink, they want to make kiddush, and you have white wine and you have red wine. As you all know, kiddush, according to most poskim, is much better that it should be red wine, right? Because you find in the pasuk that that they're mentioning wine. Wine is always related to the color red, and you have a very good tasting white wine. You would like to add some red wine to it to make it red, so that you could easily, according to all poskim, now, wow, it's great, I could now make kiddush. Is one allowed to do that or not? This question is asked, is an old question, it's not something new. Sefer Menuchat Ha'ava says it is asur to do. Right? A person cannot do that. And it seems like from others that also say you can't do it. Ovadia says already 70 years ago, he wrote in Sefer Chazon Ovadia, he writes that a person is allowed to do it. It's not an issue because, as we said, and Soveya Mamachal. Like, even in such a case, that, now because of this, it's going to become better, and so on and so forth, it says it's not a problem. Even if your intention is to do that, to make it white, to make the white red, it is fine for that purpose. Same thing with tea and coffee. Like, you could go ahead and you have hot water, you want to pour tea sands or the powder of the coffee in it, it's not a problem. On this, they bring down, some poskim bring down that it is better that a person before Shabbat, he puts in his hot water some coffee, so it's not completely clear. So that on Shabbat, when you want to put coffee in it, you're not Soveya, you're not dying it. And the Ben Ish Chai brings it, goes back and forth. At the end, he says, you know what, it's a good idea. It's a good idea to do. He said that it's a good idea. And others also, they say that, it's a good thing to do. But many other poskim say it's not a problem. Because there is no issue of Soveya in water, and therefore one is allowed to go ahead and to put just on regular clear water, hot water. You want to put tea, coffee, although it's going to get painted, it's going to get dyed. One is allowed to do. However, let's say you have guests coming and you have a beautiful crystal container, and you want to make it look nice. So what do people do? They put wine in it. Let's say red wine. It looks gorgeous in a crystal container, but you don't have enough red wine. So what do? You either put water in it or white wine in it, and then you pour a little bit of red wine to make it look good. Sefer Menuchat Ha'ava says that a person should refrain from doing that. Because you're not doing it for the purpose of drinking. You really want to color it. You really want to dye it. He writes that a person should not do that. I didn't see Rabbi say anything about it, but it seems like, if it's for that purpose, you should have done it before Shabbat, not on Shabbat.
Well, you really want to dye everything that you're dyeing.
You do want to dye it, but again, it's if it's for the purpose of food, we're saying ochel, right? If it's for the purpose of food and eating, then we understand. Look, you want to serve it, you want to make it look nice that you're serving it, also it gives it some taste, then fine. But just for the purpose of dying, just for the purpose of only and only for that purpose, it seems like Menuchat Ha'ava, he is the one that says that you can't do it for Kiddush, you can't make it red. He anyways makes that asur. But this is